We will move on to public hearing. Mr. City Manager, item number 3, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight's public hearing is certifying a final program environmental impact report and associated actions with the Pittsburg Technology Park. We have a full team together at the staff table, applicants in the audience. I'm going to Jordan Davis, Director of Community and Economic Development, and he will lead the presentation off. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. As the City Manager mentioned, we've got a whole team here tonight. John Funderburg, our Assistant Director of Community and Economic Development, Allison Spells, Associate Planner, and our CEQA consultant on this project, Stephanie Whitmore. I'm going to hand it over to Allison to talk a little bit about the project, and then I'll follow up talking about some of the economic development and financial impacts that this project would bring to the city. So, Allison.
Thank you, Jordan. Good evening. In March of 2018, the privately operated 175-acre Delta View golf course ceased operations and closed. The City Council subsequently directed staff to explore the possible uses suggested by the public for the site and to bring options back for further consideration. So staff did that on May 7th, 2018, when the City Council held a public meeting to discuss potential options available for reuse of the site. At the conclusion of that meeting, Council provided direction to pursue both economic development and multi-purpose recreational opportunities at the site. The city entered into an option agreement in June 2018 with the developer to repurpose just the eastern portion of the site, the former golf course, into a technology business park development. In August 2019, the City Council held a public meeting, received public comment, and approved a project development agreement for development of a technology park on the property. In July 2022, the City Council held a public meeting, received public comment, and approved a purchase and sale agreement with the applicant. Between 2019 and 2023, the city and applicants have held several public meetings related to this project, including neighborhood meetings with residents of Golf Club Road. Most recently, on September 10th, 2024, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this item, received public comment, and voted to recommend the City Council approve the proposal in its entirety. I'm here tonight to discuss a planning application submitted by Avio in March of this year for the proposed Pittsburg Technology Park specific plan, vesting tentative map for a major subdivision, and associated environmental impact report. The project site is located on the eastern half of the former Delta View Golf Course, south of West Leland Road. Through the 2040 general plan update and associated rezoning process, the city's Planning Commission recommended and City Council voted to designate this site as Employment Center Industrial, or ECI, with limited industrial overlay zoning, or ILO. The plan area is located along the southern edge of the city and consists of rolling hills along the lower slopes of the eastern Los Medanos Hills. The land is vacant and a majority of the site is undeveloped. There are some dilapidated former golf cart paths, existing structures, and the old parking lot from the former golf course use. The Contra Costa Canal crosses from the northwest to the southeast through the plan area, and a bridge covers a portion of the canal. The plan area is highlighted on this slide in purple, outlined in yellow. The property just west of the plan area is the western portion of the former golf course, slated to be preserved for recreation, a portion of which is the site of the future Pittsburgh Premier Fields. That's shown in green on the slide. Property south of the plan area is predominantly undeveloped, Contra Costa County. Property east of the plan area is utilized by power lines within a designated PG&E corridor. And property north of the plan area is primarily low-density residential, but includes a church and Rancho Medanos Junior High School immediately adjacent to West Leland Road. The proposed Pittsburg Technology Park specific plan would apply to an approximately 76-acre area comprised of just the 3 parcels shown on the slide outlined in blue. The proposed specific plan is based on a concept for development of the plan area in 3 phases. The area north of the canal, or phase 1, is approximately 22 acres, and the area south of the canal, comprised of phases 2 and 3, is approximately 54 acres. The requested actions before you this evening are to, 1, adopt a resolution that certifies the final program environmental impact report for the Pittsburg Technology Park specific plan, adopts the associated mitigation monitoring and reporting program and CEQA findings of fact, and approves a vesting tentative map for a 12-lot major subdivision. And 2, introduce, waive further reading, and pass to second reading an ordinance that assigns planned development district zoning to properties located within the Pittsburg Technology Park specific plan area and adopts the Pittsburg Technology Park specific plan. Staff is not requesting any project approvals this evening. You would not be approving a data center or recommending approval of a data center, and I'll touch on that more a bit later in this presentation. Now I will step you through each requested action. The first request is for City Council to adopt a resolution certifying the final environmental impact report for the proposed specific plan, which was prepared in accordance with CEQA as a program rather than a project EIR. As part of certification of the final program environmental impact report, or program EIR, for the project, Council must also adopt the associated mitigation monitoring and reporting program, or MMRP, and the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA findings. As Jordan mentioned, our CEQA consultant, Stephanie Whitmore, is here this evening to discuss technical aspects of the EIR process for this project, should you have any questions. The city complied with CEQA requirements to prepare the EIR for the proposed project. The city circulated a notice of preparation, or NOP, of an EIR on February 28th of this year to trustee and responsible agencies, including tribal governments, the state clearinghouse, and the public. We held a scoping meeting on March 14th, both in person and via Zoom. The 30-day public review period for the NOP ended on March 29th. Then, on July 3rd of this year, the city circulated a notice of availability of the draft program EIR for the proposed project, and that was posted for a 45-day public review period beginning July 3rd and ending August 19th. City staff held a public meeting on July 25th, 2024 to introduce the proposed project and accept public comment on the draft program EIR. Comments were accepted during the public meeting and in advance of the meeting via voice messages and email, as well as throughout the public comment period via U.S. mail and email. The item went before the Planning Commission on September 10th, and notice was also sent out for both the October 7th and tonight's City Council meetings. The resolution, if adopted by City Council, would also approve the vesting tentative map. This slide shows a colorized version of the proposed vesting tentative map. And just so that you could see the entire plan area, on the slide, the map is rotated 90 degrees. It shows how the 12 lots would be arranged and how the building envelopes would be laid out within the plan area. It also indicates the roadway system within the planned area, including emergency vehicle access. As a result of a federal government lands conveyance, there are 5 parcels adjacent to the 76-acre plan area, totaling approximately 26 acres, which are deed restricted as open space and are not part of the proposed project. And that's shown on the slide for the 5 parcels with that darker green background. The applicant team is here this evening should council members have technical questions about the vesting tentative map. The third request is for the City Council to introduce, waive further reading, and pass to second reading an ordinance that would assign Plan Development District or PD zoning to all properties within the plan area. This would signify that all properties within the plan area are subject to this specific plan, which includes its own separate set of zoning regulations and procedures for future land uses and development within the plan area. Specific plans are governed by statute and serve as a regulatory document that must be adopted by City Council by ordinance. The specific plan would provide a roadmap and guiding principles for how the future Pittsburg Technology Park would be developed. If adopted by the City Council, the ordinance would also adopt the Pittsburg Technology Park specific plan. The specific plan is 68 pages long, and it contains the 9 chapters that you see here on the slide. Chapters 3 and 4 combined contain over 60 design and development standards for future development within the plan area, including setbacks, height, lot coverage, site design, building form and massing, colors, textures, fencing, buffering, screening, lighting, signage, landscape design, and fire prevention. There are chapters on circulation and mobility, utilities and infrastructure, and sections providing performance standards and mitigation for various types of future development. The last 2 chapters, 8 and 9, describe how provisions of the specific plan would be administered, the process for submitting development applications for future development proposals, which would be via zoning administrator, and among other things, how revisions to approved permits would be handled. This is a demonstration rendering of a building that will be consistent with guidelines in the specific plan. The specific plan requires a high-quality designed building that would add to the character of the area as a technology campus. This shows an example of what the north and east facades might look like. As you can see, there's a lot of glass and articulation. Different materials are used on the exterior to create edges, limit blank wall space, and enhance the overall aesthetic. As I mentioned on the previous slide, the specific plan contains over 60 design review guidelines and standards for development within the plan area. This image is really a mock-up, but it shows what a structure might look like within the building envelope, with the building height and size maximized for efficiency to respond to data center market demand. As we move forward, though we don't have any plans for a specific project at this time, we just want to highlight the quality of the building design and character that would be demanded by staff and required by the specific plan for future development applications. The specific plan requires future development projects to install landscaping. This slide shows the phase 1 landscape concept design the potential data center project would provide. As you can see, the landscaping will be integrated into the natural topography of the surrounding area. This slide's intended to provide guidance for future development proposals within the plan area. We would be requesting landscape plantings that include mature shade and accent trees and shrubs and ground cover, consistent with the landscape master plan in an effort to cultivate a vibrant and inviting campus-like environment. A lot of this would be fleshed out when we have full designs to review as part of development applications. However, the goal is to ensure consistency, eliminate and reduce invasive species, shield and screen development to the greatest extent practicable, and ensure drought-tolerant, fire-resistant plantings. As we've mentioned, the specific plan is based on a concept for development of the area in 3 phases. This slide is also flipped on its side. There are no specific approvals within the plan area. Phase 1, circled in red on the slide, is assumed for purposes of environmental review to be a data center project. Just to reiterate, approval of the specific plan does not authorize construction of the data center. It merely lays out the regulations for which future applications must adhere. Chapter 8 of the specific plan implementation lays out a streamlined permit process for consideration of future development proposals within the Pittsburgh Technology Park plan area. The process would require applicants of future development proposals to submit an application to the zoning administrator. The zoning administrator would ensure the application's complete. If so, the zoning administrator would send a notice of intent to the planning commission that he or she intends to hold a zoning administrator public hearing on the item prior to making a decision on the application. As part of this process, the zoning administrator would review all future development proposals to ensure conformity with the 60+ design guidelines and development standards in the specific plan. And I want to note here that based on feedback we received at community meetings and at the Planning Commission, staff has provided a memorandum to council members as part of this item. And the memorandum describes a minor inconsistency within Chapter 8 of the specific plan, specifically just one sentence on page 30 and one sentence on page 32 are revised to clarify that future development applications will be subject to a duly noticed zoning administrator public hearing. Just wanted to clarify that. So each council member has received a copy of the memorandum and attachments, and the memorandum has also been provided on the dais. The potential data center project includes an emergency backup generating facility with a generation capacity of up to 92 megawatts to provide backup emergency generation in the case of a loss of utility power. Because the California Energy Commission, or CEC, has authority over data centers that generate 50 megawatts or more capacity, the applicant submitted an application for a small power plant exemption, or SPPE, to the CEC. As part of approval of the SPPE application, the CEC will certify the data center CEQA compliance document and associated MMRP. Then the property owner would submit an application to the city for the data center, and the city would evaluate the application pursuant to the review procedures of the specific plan and conduct appropriate CEQA compliance. We would be sure to notify interested parties of any future development applications within the plan area, as well as when the potential data center project and associated environmental document may be considered by the council. The findings the council needs to make to certify the final program EIR for the proposed project, which I'll explain in the next few slides, can be found in sections 2 and 3 of the resolution. The findings the City Council needs to make to approve the vesting tentative map for the proposed project can be found in section 4 of the resolution. And pursuant to PMC section 18.62.060A, adoption of a specific plan must be processed concurrently with a zoning map amendment, assigning PD district zoning to properties located within the plan area. And the findings the City Council needs to make to approve the zoning map amendment can be found within section 1 of the ordinance. As identified in the draft program EIR, significance criteria, thresholds, and CEQA guidelines Appendix G were addressed for each topic area identified in the NOP distributed at the very start of the EIR process. All topic areas were found to have a less than significant environmental impact, 7 of those with mitigation incorporated, and those 7 areas are highlighted in blue on the slide, and they were air quality, biological resources, cultural and tribal resources, geology and soils, noise, transportation and circulation, and wildfires. The draft program EIR concluded that the proposed Pittsburg Technology Park specific plan project would not have any significant unavoidable adverse environmental impacts. This is summarized in the very first chapter of the draft program EIR in the executive summary, which provides a detailed set of mitigation measures that are required to be implemented throughout the lifetime of the proposed Pittsburg Technology Park specific plan project. The mitigation monitoring and reporting program will be an appendix to the specific plan if adopted. The MMRP will be used by city staff and mitigation monitoring personnel to ensure compliance with mitigation measures during implementation of the proposed project. The city received 12 comment letters during the 45-day public review period. Some of the concerns expressed in the comments are included here on the slide. In accordance with CEQA Guidelines Section 15088, responses to these comments are included in the final program EIR. No new significant environmental impacts or issues beyond those already covered in the draft program EIR for the proposed project were raised during the comment period. Responses to comments received during the comment period did not involve any new significant impacts or add significant new information that will require recirculation of the draft program EIR pursuant to CEQA guidelines. As noted in the staff report, comments received expressed concern that the draft program EIR did not adequately analyze the significance of the proposed project's greenhouse gas emissions. Comments received questioned the effectiveness of mitigation measures in the draft program EIR related to requiring future development projects to utilize transportation demand management plans to reduce vehicle miles traveled. Other comments express concern about impacts to biological resources within the plan area. The city responded to these comments formally in the final program EIR.
Go ahead.
Now I'll turn it over to Jordan.
Thank you, Allison. As you can see, this is a very complex project, one of the most complex projects I've worked on during my tenure with the city of Pittsburgh, but it's a project that, if approved, will provide significant economic development and financial benefit to the city. And so we want to talk a little bit about what that actually means and give you some real numbers and examples of where this money is going to go and how it's going to really assist the city. So in one-time revenues to the city, we're looking at the sale of the property, which could be up to $16.8 million. And these funds will go, in part at least, to support the development of the Premier Fields project just west of the data center or technology park. Building and engineering permits are estimated to be $500,000, and then point of sale taxes from construction purchases are estimated to be about $3 million. This project would pay the local traffic mitigation fees as well as the NPDES fees as part of their permit issuance. And then other agencies stand to benefit as well. Just on phase one, Pittsburgh Unified School District impact fees are estimated to be $277,000 per building. And then development fees are exactions, regional traffic mitigation fees, $680,000. And then there are also fees that will be paid to Delta Diablo Sanitation District, Contra Costa County Fire Protection District, and the Los Medanos Community College District. Reoccurring revenues are significant, and these are funds that are going to go to continue to support city operations. These are general fund revenues. These are recreation programs, streets, economic development, and such that help support our city operations and the goals of the city and allow us to continue to progress. Property taxes themselves are estimated to be $1.5 million annually, and the public safety CFD contribution would be $46,000, which increases up to 5% annually. So this is a project with its own security system, its own security personnel, yet it'll still be paying in to support the men and women of the Pittsburgh Police Department in making sure that our entire city is safe and well taken care of. And then sales taxes from equipment replacement just in phase one. We anticipate, in speaking with the developer, that that's going to happen every 3 to 5 years. And so every 3 to 5 years, there are going to be sales taxes that are experienced from the replacement of all the servers and other infrastructure within the building that needs to be upgraded. So a significant sales tax benefit, estimated to be averaged $1 million annually. And then other agencies, again, they'll receive recurring revenues as well. The local school district funding is estimated to be $2.5 million. The community college district is estimated to be $338,000. The East Bay Regional Park District would receive $225,000 annually. And the Fire Protection District would receive a little over $1.1 million annually. This project is also the largest project that would potentially be served by the Pittsburgh Power Company, and it allows for exponential growth of PPC as we continue to look for ways to reach our goals and expand that amenity to serve some of our economic development goals. Pittsburgh Power Company has the ability to provide prices and serve the industrial businesses in Pittsburgh and continue economic development. That's a foundational component of continuing economic development. And growth in PPC funds support further expansion of that agency as well as further job attraction. PPC also assists with financial support for community benefits and community activities, which is huge here in Pittsburgh. Again, here's a picture of the demo building that's been put together showing what those 60+ design and development guidelines would result in. So this is a view facing south, and so you can see to the right the north face of the building, and kind of more towards the left 2/3 of the screen, the eastern portion of the building. So this is what folks are going to see, and we've worked really hard with the applicant to make sure that these are high quality designs that are going to add to the city and not detract from what's there. So folks across the PG&E corridor will see the eastern facade of this building. Any equipment either placed on the roofs or behind the buildings is going to have to be screened, both by landscaping and with high quality architectural screens that don't just look like fencing or some sort of industrial development. They look like office spaces and office buildings, and they have architecture and they add aesthetic value to the area. As Allison mentioned, these designs have been very strategically thought out in order to maximize the efficiency of both the footprint and the building that they serve. This helps us maximize the amount of open space and the buffer that we can provide between some of the residences and the buildings, while also meeting that level of square footage necessary in order to make these data centers feasible and useful by some of the big companies that we hope to attract, that we hope Avio can attract to utilize some of these data centers and build on some of that secondary and tertiary economic development growth. The building's also been strategically located in a part of that golf course, or that former golf course, that has a little bit of a valley. And in working in some of those areas, they're able to sort of set it within that valley, make it a little more screened by some of the existing topography as well as some of the landscaping that's already there. So again, a very thought out or thoughtful placement and design of these buildings in order to make it part of the area, add to the area, not detract, not create any kind of aesthetic issues. Again, we see this project as having a major economic development impact for the city. Data centers such as this, or technology campuses such as this, market Pittsburgh as a burgeoning technology hub with a culture that supports 21st century industries. This could have new business and job attraction recruitment incentives, or it would help recruit some of those businesses. The secondary and tertiary businesses that may need to locate near the technology park campus, those might be office buildings, those might be uses that can build off of the infrastructure that something like this would bring, the fiber optic connectivity, the reduction in latency by being close to a data center, the ease of commutes if they need to communicate with the data center. These are all things that we hope to attract by having this data center. Silicon Valley isn't just a bunch of office buildings, it's data centers and office buildings that form an ecosystem in that area that support the technology industry and the development of some of those uses. Again, enhancements to infrastructure needs such as broadband and power utilities and support for existing buildings or support for existing businesses by the technology park employees and the visitors that will come to both update those data centers and to meet with some of the data center operators to help bring their businesses here. Community benefits, growth in the Pittsburg Power Company will result in funding and continued support for job training and placement programs such as Future Build, workforce development through partnerships with LMC and Pittsburgh Unified School District, the one-time and ongoing funding that supports recreation and park improvements throughout the city as well as other infrastructure improvements, and then potentially increased funding and revenues through the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, which again supports development of infrastructure and economic development growth here in the city. That concludes my part of the presentation, and I'm going to hand it back to the city manager to conclude.
Thank you, Jordan and the team for the presentation here. When we started this in 2018, 2019, the golf course had just closed because of ADA and cost issues. UPI, Corteva were operational, and the incentives the city had really available were land, the power company, water, and dark fiber. A major consideration, as Jordan's pointed out, was the opportunity for the Pittsburgh Power to increase its load service in the community of Pittsburgh. We already are doing that successfully in Vallejo at a price that is very competitive, if not, frankly, 25 to 30% below PG&E in Vallejo. And so certainly the Pittsburgh Power Company can lead to more economic development and job growth in our community. This is a transformational project in the region. It's interesting, about every 10 years we have a East County gathering, sort of a economic development conference. And so I've developed a relationship with some of the different brokers. And as we were looking at this in 2018, 2019, called a couple of them on, what do you think about a tech park, technology campus, data center in the Pittsburgh area? And one of the brokers who mainly works in Alameda in San Francisco really just stopped and said, that would be such a transformational project for your community, for East County, for Central County, because it creates a completely different look that people have for this region. And Pittsburgh and this area sits very well geographically between San Francisco, Silicon Valley, San Jose, and Sacramento. So there really is an opportunity here. Now, that's not saying, and I'm sure we're going to hear from some folks, the project does have some items of note that have been looked at, and frankly, it's not very often we get to bring an environmental impact report to you all without an overriding consideration. But this is one of those times. And so ambient sound has been analyzed and looked at. The backup generators that are there for events that we may have coming up, public safety power shutoffs. That's what they're there for. The Transbay Cable Project, City Hall, water treatment plant, they have backup generators. Do they run? No, unless we have a power shutoff or something in an emergency. Because in an emergency, we all want to use this, and we all want access to the cloud while that's going on. That's what those kind of generators are there for, to help and make sure that we have access and are running, or in this case of IO. The potential height, of 99 feet, it is tall. They are looking at ways to, maybe build in the valley where appropriate, depending. But data center companies have maximized the configuration of buildings in looking at both, sort of floor plate and floor height. And so that is something that we've been working with the applicant to make sure that could be maximized. As we were looking at this, again, staff attended a couple of conferences on data center development. The key takeaway that we heard is what you have before you tonight, a pre-approved specific plan, basically shovel ready. And as we've gone through grants over the years, wanting things to be shovel ready. Well, really, that's what we're trying to make here for the data center. It's shovel ready. It meets specific criteria. It has to hit those. If not, it's something that comes back to the different agencies, whether it's planning commission or city council. So we're trying to make sure there's a box that they have to fit in. If they do that, they can get up and running. Why is that important? Well, a couple months ago, a company reached out to us because they heard about this process. And the company had $500 million to invest in a data center, but they had a 6-month fuse. Now, we weren't quite there yet, but if we were, that is something that Avio could have quickly run on and capitalized and basically inform that company, as long as you can fit within the specific plan that we have here, we can help you meet that 6-month deadline to get that money into market. And so that's really what we learned from the different conferences and working with Avio, what we're trying to present here tonight. Finally, in my nearly 28 years here, I've seen $2 billion worth of investment in this community. It's allowed Pittsburgh to transform downtown, the California Theater, Vidrio, Mecca, Plaza Marina, Entrada, Siena Court. They would have been significantly hampered if it never happened if we didn't have those $2 billion worth of projects in the early 2000s, late 90s. The redevelopment doesn't happen without visionary city councils, community, and big dollar projects. This project has the potential to could be 3 $1 billion projects built with the best qualified and experienced labor force. It can be the next investment that transforms Pittsburgh as the city council looks towards sports tourism and other types of community improvements. And so that's why you see the recommendation you do before you, and staff is certainly ready should you have questions before the public hearing or afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, and thank you to Jordan and the team for presenting. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and I'll ask my colleagues if they have any questions on this item for staff. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, through the mayor. Thank you for the very informative presentation. I had a couple questions about some of the things that you had talked about. One, the 60+ design standards that you talked about, are those are they rules, or is it a guideline? And the as the plan gets developed, you can kind of, is it a guide or a rule? That's really my question.
Great question, Councilmember Adams. They are rules. They are check boxes that must be met as the building designs come forward. Okay. We're referring to them as guidelines, but realistically, they are design standards.
Okay. Thank you. And then that lends itself to the streamline approach that you're proposing for this? Okay, super helpful. That's a yes.
Oh, yes, those guidelines do help lead to the streamline approach.
Okay, great. And then, sorry, colleagues, I have lots of questions. I was listening intently. The timing of the plan for phase 1, like, what does that look like?
Well, there's several different steps, as Allison laid out. After this, the applicant will go before the CEC, and they will need to adopt their own environmental document that will actually be brought back before the City Council for certification as a responsible agency should it get approved. But I'll leave the actual timeline to the applicant to maybe commit to or at least propose. But we're hoping with this streamline approach that when they have all the approvals that are necessary, that they can move forward very quickly. We're able to hold zoning administrator hearings noticed with the public meetings very expeditiously. And so once they have those approvals and they need to get their building approved, they can file an application with the zoning administrator. We can hold that hearing and we can move forward swiftly so they can break ground as soon as possible.
Okay, so just make sure that I'm trying to understand in my mind and maybe to be helpful to other folks. So they'll lay out the plan, they'll come back to us and tell us the timeline, but they will have had to follow the different design standard rules with what they bring to us and then tell us the timeline based on what they design or for the project.
maybe I can lay out an example and hopefully answer your questions. So if approved tonight, and there would potentially be a second reading for the ordinance 2 weeks from now, and if adopted, it would go into effect 30 days after that. The applicant already has an application in with the CEC, and if they were to obtain the small power plant exemption and the approvals they need from the CEC, who has the jurisdiction to approve the design and location of the building. Now, when we say has the jurisdiction to approve the design, we're not saying they have the jurisdiction to overwrite anything that we have. They basically approve the size and some of those technical aspects of a data center. And Scott Galati, who's here, can probably clarify a little bit what I'm saying. But speaking in generalities, that's what they would do. Then the applicant would come back to us and they would file an application. If it is for a data center, which is something that has been analyzed for the purposes of environmental review here, then that is a use that would need design review, but that design review would be handled at the administrative level with the zoning administrator, and we laid out what that process looks like, so I won't be too repetitious in that. Then the zoning administrator would have the authority through the specific plan, if a design meets all those criteria, those 60 plus criteria, which is everything from the amount of landscaping you need, the amount of parking you need, the types of design materials and facade improvements and screening and all of those things, setbacks, the whole nine, then the zoning administrator could potentially approve that at the administrative level, which allows us to get the applicant moving forward a little bit more quickly. Realistically, we would hope, if everything went well, that there would be a groundbreaking next year. If not, definitely 2026. A lot of that is dependent on the applicant going through the process, finding a tenant, and all those things that are necessary in order to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Lots of pieces that you're putting together to keep it. You're just being very diligent about it. I really appreciate and want to really share that with the folks that were here, like all the work that goes into these projects. So thank you.
Any additional questions from my colleagues? Councilmember Scales Preston.
Yes. Thank you for the presentation. It was very helpful. Just want to piggyback on a question Councilmember Adams just asked. So when we say streamline, does that mean it's not coming back to council?
The design of the buildings would not, under the specific plan, require any sort of council approval. Now, we have made a commitment if the environmental document is approved by the CEC, that we would bring that back to the city council for certification. So the city council would have the ability to see that. But under our goals of streamlining this, as the city manager mentioned, in order to meet those market demands and get these transformational projects to the city, we've laid out a course that would allow these uses or these developments, if they're consistent with all those guidelines, to move forward quickly. And no, streamlining would not require city council approval. There is a potential avenue, but it is not required under the specific plan. It only requires zoning administrator approval.
Mm-hmm. And so I'll come back to that one. My next question would be with regards to the mitigation monitoring. Who does that monitoring?
It's a combination of consultants, the applicant, and staff. So ultimately, staff is responsible, and staff would have the authority to review all mitigation monitoring and ensure that it's being completed. And those are also added requirements of the specific plan. But a lot of it would be reports that are filed when building permits are pulled, or annual inspections done by either our engineering or our public works folks, or planning themselves. We hold and we want to hold the responsibility for ensuring that those are there, because that's how we can commit to saying that any future development will meet all those standards.
All right. And then my next question, in terms of for phase one, the one, I guess phase one is the closest to Leland Road. Correct. Is that correct? So in terms of the height for that one, could you give us an example of what that height might look like with some of the buildings that we may have throughout the city?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So as mentioned, we have maximum heights, and we also have this demonstration design. And in this demonstration design, the roof line is approximately 74 feet. There is some screening above that, but the roof line at 74 feet, that's compared to this building, which is actually 77 feet, and Los Medanos Community Hospital, which is about 90 feet. This would also have an allowance for additional screening above the roof line height. So all in, you're looking at about 90 feet for the proposed building. Again, compare that to Los Medanos Hospital, which is about 112 feet when you include all the parapets and all the screening and all the appurtenances that go up on top. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of where this falls kind of in the middle of the two existing buildings.
And so for the future buildings, not phase one, but phase two, would that come back to council?
Not if they meet all the design and development criteria.
And so the only reason why I asked, because if phase one is built, and then if there was any issues after phase one was built, just want to make sure that those issues are, that council gets a chance to discuss those issues if something was to happen in the future.
If there are issues, those would definitely be things that we would look to mitigate in future development processes. This is the council's specific plan, so the council does hold control of the requirements within the specific plan going forward. So if there was ever an issue, it could be brought forward for discussion on whether or not something needs to be done to address that.
Thank you. No, I just want to make sure there's transparency there. So if one building was built, and this is our first time having a data center in our community, that it can come back to council so it could be discussed if there was any issues for future buildings.
I definitely think if we experience those issues, it would definitely be something that would have lengthy discussions, and we would talk about different avenues we could utilize to ensure that we continue to mitigate those and help address them going forward.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from my colleagues? Vice Mayor Killings.
Yes, thank you to the mayor. Thank you to Jordan and the team for the presentation. I just want to touch a little bit. There's been a lot of conversation as folks think about this project, but can you just share a little bit about the water demand, the power demand, and if that would have any impact in terms of service levels to residents as it relates to power and water?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question, Mr. Vice Mayor. Starting with water, the answer is no. So this project, with the exception of some of the potable water uses, toilets and sinks and some of those things within the office space of the building, which is pretty minimal, that would all be potable water. Everything else would utilize recycled water from Delta Diablo. And the applicant has already signed those agreements to ensure that they have the adequate water to utilize for this project, so you would not see any impact there. In addition, our water treatment plant has more than adequate capacity for the low potable water need of a development such as this. That also goes for all the landscaping and everything that would all be recycled. Energy-wise, and again, folks that are much more technical than I can give you perhaps a little more detail if necessary. But the long and short of it is there's two different types of lines that run through that PG&E corridor, and there are local lines that serve our local power, and then there are regional lines that basically connect multiple substations, and those are the higher voltage lines. And this project would tap into those higher voltage lines. So while we work with PG&E, one of the requirements will be that the applicant upgrade any necessary facilities to ensure that that power demand is not interrupted and that there's adequate power there. And of course, when PPC is serving, we would make sure that adequate power is available to them. But by tapping into those larger 220 kV lines, they would be tapping into the lines that don't serve the local residents immediately. And so there would be no impact. Nobody would go to flip on their lights and there would be nothing there. Everything would be on sort of a separate system to eliminate any impacts there. And was there one other issue?
Thank you for that. And just one other question. I don't know, it kind of relates to, I guess, just mitigation. And is there, as construction takes place, is there possibly a mitigation fund for potential impacts to residents? And this question comes off of just experience with development in other areas of the community when grounds are disturbed. So from the dust aspect, if residents are experiencing a lot of dust on their cars, vehicles, things like that, is there a mitigation for that? I know a construction company here locally has like provided residents with car washes, things like that. And then also for habitat and, you know, nature starts to move. And if folks are finding their yards are being dug up by critters, things like that, is there any type of mitigation fund that could be utilized for those type of impacts to residents as a result of the project and construction?
There is no mitigation fund, and I think that we will be working very closely with the developer and any of their contractors when the time comes to pay attention to any impacts that might take place as a result of the construction. That being said, though, the mitigation is extensive, and not only the mitigation that's specific to this project, but all the standards that are always required by our Public Works Division and other folks in order to minimize some of those potential impacts. So making sure that dust is kept down by making sure that any exposed dirt is kept wet or down or covered, or some other mechanism for ensuring it's not just blowing with some of the high winds that get through there, ensuring that construction is done and testing is done during certain times of the year in order to minimize impacts on certain protected species or other types of critters that might be out there, so we don't disturb them, at least minimize the amount of disturbance. There is quite a bit of open space out there, so hopefully if there is any disturbance to some of those critters or animals, they could seek refuge elsewhere in some of the other 500 plus acres of open space in that area that's not disturbed. But we will work very closely with the developer and their contractors to make sure those mitigations, those best management practices, and everything are very strictly adhered to in order to reduce, if not eliminate, some of those things. And you know, I'll leave it to the developer and their contractors to see if there's anything they can do to support the residents in that area. That's not a requirement, but definitely something that we will encourage, especially as we hear some of the issues that might be coming up.
Thank you.
Okay. So we will go and take public comments at this time. Before we take public comments, we have a speaker, so I just ask that everyone to the 3 minutes that everyone gets, and there will be a timer that goes off. Please conclude your remarks when that timer goes off. Madam Clerk, the first speaker.
Dustin Spurgeon.
My name is Dustin. I'm with District Council 16, Local 741 Business Rep. I cover Contra Costa County, so this project actually hits home for me. So I just kind of wanted to touch on a couple of things. First of all, the economic growth. A new data center brings significant investment, creating jobs in construction, operation, and maintenance, benefiting local businesses and boosting the city's economy. Also have job creation. It provides high-paying, skilled jobs in IT engineering operations, contributing to workforce development and offering career opportunities to local residents. And another high point I see is a technologically advanced hub development. Positions Pittsburgh as a growing center for tech innovation, attracting additional tech firms and establishing the city as a key player in the digital economy. We have increased tax revenue. The new data center will generate a new tax revenue supporting public services, infrastructure improvement, and community programs, like Jordan touched on earlier. We also have infrastructure upgrades. This project will likely stimulate upgrades for local infrastructure, roads, utilities, and broadband benefiting the entire region. And we know just the economical impact it would have on our city would be phenomenal. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Whitney.
Good evening, council, staff. It's wonderful to be here tonight. My name is Bill Whitney. I'm the executive director for the Contra Costa Building and Construction Trades Council. And our 35,000 members want me here tonight to be supportive of the ordinance through the draft resolution that's been provided to council. We support this project, and we think this is a wonderful opportunity for the city. In politics, and obviously we're in the middle of a big political thing tomorrow, you hear a lot of things get said. And one of the things we all have heard is it's the economy, dummy. And the way I look at that is it's really jobs, 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 dummy. That's what it is about. And that's what this project is going to provide. Not just the construction jobs, but post-construction jobs. And it's going to support, as your economic director indicated, there's money that's flowing to the community, and this is just the first step. If you build it, they will come. There will be more jobs, and that's what we're about. Apprenticeship programs, the pre-apprenticeship program at Future Build, local hire, putting men and women that live in your community to work, and they don't get out on the road. They're not experiencing the dangers of being out on the road. And they don't have to drive all the way to Santa Clara to put in 8 hours a day and then come back. So you're creating jobs that are wonderful opportunities for this community, not to mention with our Helmets to Hard Hats program that we have. You're also providing support for your local veterans because we have direct hire opportunities for the veterans through the Helmets to Hard Hats program. We also have direct hire opportunities into the apprenticeship programs for some of our crafts through Future Build. So to me, this is a win-win-win. I think your city manager is absolutely correct that this doesn't come along every single day. You got to take advantage. When opportunity knocks, you better open the door because otherwise it's going to go to someplace else. And I can feel it, and I think you can feel it. There's a beacon that's shining right down on the city of Pittsburgh, and the city of Pittsburgh is at this unique epicenter spot. And I hope we all take advantage of that and don't look past that. Thank you.
Thank you.
William Cheeseholm.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is William Chisholm. I'm a business rep for the International Union of Elevator Constructors, and we have members that serve this entire community throughout Contra Costa and the surrounding communities as well. This project, as Bill stated before me, it represents opportunity. Opportunity that our members get to put in elevators, conveyance, the equipment that we would be installing, the jobs that you would be providing by this. They don't just get built and go away. There's a maintenance, there's a repair, there's a service, and there's the modernization of that equipment over the years to come. And our members that live in this community do all that work. And as Bill stated previous, they wouldn't be driving down to Campbell, Santa Clara, where a lot of these data centers are being built right now. So again, this entire thing is about opportunity. You have the opportunity to change this entire community for the better. To me, that's a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Haynes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Eric Haynes. I am a business representative with Sheet Metal Workers Local 104. I live in Concord, but I am representing hundreds of members in the East Bay, many dozens that live right here in Pittsburgh. I'm going to echo what everybody else has been saying. Look, Pittsburgh was one of the last cities to start spending the funds available to renovate their downtown. Pittsburgh should be the first to have the technology park built in Contra Costa County. I haven't worked on one. I haven't heard of one. All of our members that live in Contra Costa County commute daily to Santa Clara, to San Mateo, Alameda County to work on technology centers. It would just be an absolute shame to see this opportunity pass. It would put members to work. It would bring in future sheet metal workers out of future build, out of the local schools, state indentured apprentices. We've all been hearing about a shortage of skilled labor. Foster it right here. Great opportunity. So I encourage the council to approve the final EIR and the specific plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Edgar Flores.
Yes, good evening. My name is Edgar Flores, and I'm a business representative for the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. I represent painters, tapers, floor covers, and glazers. And with that said, we have a lot of members that live here in the community, here in Pittsburgh and the surrounding area. So, this will sound like an echo from all of us. That will benefit a lot of our members working here locally, and then I believe something like this will benefit just the economy and the citizens of Pittsburgh and the surrounding areas. Came here in Pittsburgh in 1986, and I've just seen the changes that Pittsburgh has made throughout the years. And this will take it to the next level. Having a tech park would be something big here in East Contra Costa County. That was about it, all that I had. And hopefully this passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Pappas Coniglio.
I never do this, but I'm glad to be here. Don't laugh, you make me laugh. I never give speeches, and I didn't write a speech, but I have some notes. But you gave such wonderful presentations. So I think it's a great project. It's great for the city, it's great for everybody, except maybe the residents. I think maybe first of all, I want to say that I was born in Pittsburgh, never left Pittsburgh. My parents were born here. My grandmothers were born here. We never left Pittsburgh. This is our town. We love it. We all work together. We never had any problems. I just don't like where it is. I'm kind of worried about the people that live around the project. I'm one of those people. I'm worried about it because are the people that are going to be barbecuing in their backyard looking at a 9-story building? I'm kind of worried about that. I live next to the water treatment plant, and 2 years ago, I spent $3,700 to get rid of raccoons in my attic. 2 weeks ago, I spent $2,000 to get rid of them again. They were back. They're moving a little dirt, they're building a little project. So I'm kind of worried about my neighbors who have been there for 50 years. I'm a little bit worried. And you guys have a terrible job. This is a very hard job. We voted for you guys to take care of us, to take care of our community, to make the best decisions possible. This is not easy. It's just not easy. This is a dream project. Our community needs this project. Look at the schools. Everybody's getting money out of this. The city needs the money. The kids need to know that they can get a great job if they do their work in school. I mean, this is great. You know, it's beautiful, great project. You know, I mean, I used to work for the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, I can't say it's not a bad idea. It's a good idea. Just move it someplace else. You know, Pittsburgh is an industrial community. You know, okay, so maybe you have to build a seawall or do a little cleanup somewhere. You know, just think about the residents. You know, that golf course area, and I understand golf courses don't make money, you know, so I get it. I understand that. But that's such a beautiful spot. I mean, I'm sure we could find something better to put there, okay, that doesn't impact the community. Our community doesn't have that many beautiful areas, even if we have to leave it open with nothing on it for a while until things change. But thank you. But just remember, you guys work for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thomas Rorick.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Thomas Rorick. I'm the 15-year member of Carpenters Local 152. I would like to speak in support of the Technology Park Development Plan. A plan such as the one presented before you tonight is good not only for blue-collar construction workers such as myself, but also for our community as a whole. A project of this scale would employ hundreds of local tradesmen and women, elevating their quality of life by providing them with a wage they can not only be proud to earn, but also support their families with. Once this project has been completed, it will provide many long-term, high-paying professional jobs, not only for the technology industry, but also in the form of administrative and office staff that would be needed for the day-to-day operations that keep a successful business alive. The construction of this technology park would also create several more entry-level positions for those of the community who are perhaps just beginning down their path to a professional career. Not to mention all the men and women in the service and maintenance industry that would directly benefit from this project. In conclusion, the construction of Technology Park would mean a great deal to those of us in the construction industry, as well as a crucial source of revenue for the city of Pittsburgh, and a major opportunity to employ hundreds of men and women in our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ramon Amaral.
Good evening. My name is Ramon Amaral. I'm a field representative for the North Cal Carpenters, Local 152, as well as a 30-year resident for the city of Pittsburgh. I'm here to express my strong support for this development, which is not just a development, but a commitment to a strong support, a commitment to our community values. After months of talks with the developer, I'm thrilled to share that we've secured a reasonable general contractor who aligns perfectly with the Carpenters Union core values. The carpenters on this project will be paid area standard wages with health and retirement benefits, ensuring our workers have the support they deserve. It's not just about building today, it's also about investing in tomorrow. Through our statewide apprenticeship program and focus on local hires, this project will create pathways for the community members, fostering both skill development and local economic growth. This is a responsible development that builds integrity, dignity, and respect for our workers and neighbors. I respectfully urge the council to adopt this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Lindsay.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jason Lindsay. I'm President of Business Agent of Iron Workers Local 378 and represent 2,500 iron workers, about 500 of which live out here in eastern Contra Costa. You know, I spent 20 years working on the tools, working down in the South Bay, building data centers and other types of infrastructure that support tech. And I've often wondered, well, why does everything have to be concentrated down here where there's all these narrow streets and it takes an hour to get, once you get off the freeway, it takes an hour to get to the job and worse, coming home. Why can't they spread that out to other communities around Northern California? And so when I got in the position I'm in and started talking to a lot of local politicians and state politicians, I started asking that question. And the answer I got was, well, we don't have the amenities out here that they do in the South Bay. And I'm thinking, mind you, I build stuff. I'm not a tech guy or anything like that, right? But I'd scratch my head and think, well, geez, we got parks. We got all the same restaurants. We got all the same stuff that they have everywhere else. And in reviewing this and talking about this project over the last several months, ding, the light bulb went off. Oh, they're talking about data centers, right? Where the latency, you know, you have all that data right there next to where you're going to use it, utilize it, or add to it, or whatever they do with data, mine it, is right next to the hub, right? So if you build something like that out here, a technology park, and you approve this specific plan, then, you know, as it was said earlier, you build it and they will come. And that's the one amenity that we need out here to get all these thousands of cars that go that way south to work every day, that leave here and go there and then turn around and come back to go to bed and get up and do it all over again. Maybe they'll stay right here, which is going to improve on your quality, not only quality of life, quality of air, cut down on pollution and greenhouse gases and all that good stuff, right? If you're eliminating cars off the road. So anyway, that's all I got to say. Thanks. Please approve this.
Thank you.
Bruce Olson.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Benales, councilpersons, staff, and fellow residents of Pittsburgh. I am Bruce Olson, Pittsburgh's Mr. Bicycle. It appears that Pittsburgh is preparing to enter the 21st century tonight by approving this technology park's specific plan. Pittsburgh's bicycle community would like to see the developer provide one additional transportation mitigation for this project, and that would be a pedestrian and bicycle bridge over West Leland Road. This bridge would connect the planned playing fields on the other half of the former golf course with John Henry Johnson Park. Building connecting paths to the maintenance road of the canal on both sides of the street, we could connect the Delta de Anza Regional Trail near Ambrose Park to Crestview Drive near Heights Elementary School. This would be a wonderful addition to the already existing paths in our community. The construction of this bridge is a reasonable mitigation to expect from this technology park. I heard the term billions describing the money that's going to be earned by this park. This bridge will increase safety for everyone. Now is the time to require the mitigation as part of the specific plan for the entire park, not at individual zoning administrator hearings, and not when one of our youth is hit by a car while crossing West Leland Road between these two parks. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Jason Lester.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. I grew up in Oakley and commuted once I got into the trades. I've been in the Plumber Steamfitters Union now for 26 years. I'm now a business agent representing about 500 members that live here in Contra Costa County. A lot of them are right here in Pittsburgh. But living in Oakley and driving all the way down to the South Bay, sitting on this highway floor traffic, thinking every day, how many times could I sit here and work right here 20 minutes from my house? whatever it was, you know? It's huge. And I think that the thing that, without sounding like a broken record with my other brothers and sisters here tonight, was jobs, jobs, jobs. That's what this is gonna create. And I think that's what's the most important, especially for the community, for the middle-class people. So I urge you to approve. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nancy Parent.
Good evening. I don't want to talk so much about this technology part because I think that phase 2 and 3 are being underrepresented. You have no idea what anybody is going to put on 2 or 3, and the standards that are in here allow Amazon to come in and build a warehouse with the trucks going in and out. An office building that is 90 feet tall. Setbacks of 10 feet. That's a setback you have for a house. All those things are in these 60 wonderful hoops that somebody is going to have to go through. And the zoning administrator is going to decide whether they meet the hoops. Think about what Ms. Caniglio said. There are people living around there. The EIR says that the golf course created 750 car trips a day. The EIR for this entire phases 2, 3, and the one building we have now seen, the EIR says 3,300 trips per day on Leland Road between whatever exit people get off Railroad Avenue or Bailey Road. Those standards are not good enough for this town. And I want you to know that the people who negotiated this, who were planning it, do not live in this town, will not live in this town. The notice is not enough. People have trouble figuring out what you're going to do, what the Planning Commission is going to do. Then the only notice they're going to get is the zoning administrator is going to tell the planning commissioner that I'm going to approve a building on phase 2 or 3. And then they have to say, we want to look at it. And only if they look at it, will you look at it? No, that is not the public way of doing things. It's the fast way. It's going to get all that money, and this is about money. And I'm the treasurer. I know you can use it, but at what cost to the citizens who live here?
Meredith Stevenson.
Good evening. I'm representing Center for Biological Diversity and our members that live here and in the larger county. So just to be clear, we're talking about warehouses or maybe a data center within 85 feet from residential areas, 200 feet from a church, 250 feet from a park, 80 feet from a proposed park. It is right in the middle of where people are living. Also, it's in a very high-risk wildfire area and a high-risk wildfire area, and it is right next to a potentially significant wildlife crossing as stated in the EIR. Data centers are extremely energy intensive. They're extremely water intensive, and they are noisy. The data center industry alone constitutes around 3% of the world's global GHG emissions, and we are in the middle of a climate crisis. The EIR fails entirely to provide adequate analysis because it says it's programmatic. It fails to even thoroughly assess the data center's impacts on water usage, GHG emissions, air quality, noise, all the impacts. It provides only a cursory analysis. and then reiterates that it remains speculative whether there will even be a data center. Well, tonight it sounds like it's a pretty foregone conclusion it will be a data center. And the EIR even admits the land use proposed for development is accurate and well-defined, a data center. And it assumes that phase 1 will be a data center. The city should have just waited until the approval of the data center and completed project level review for that data center that includes GHG emissions, includes wildlife connectivity, and then done programmatic review for those later phases. Regarding those really, really critical GHG emissions, the EIR underestimates those emissions. It did this through selecting a threshold of significance that only applies to residential and mixed-use land uses projects. It does not take into account the loss of carbon storage from destroying the grasslands, and it fails to adequately consider emissions from vehicle miles traveled and from those truck trips that potentially could be in the thousands in the later phases. Regarding impacts on wildlife, the EIR fails entirely to consider the impacts on habitat connectivity, including that wildlife corridor that is right next to the project. Additionally, regarding noise, as with some of these other impacts I just mentioned, the EIR entirely glosses over it. It says there will be no noise impacts somehow, despite the 36 generators, cooling towers, rooftop air handling units, transformers, and the traffic from the employees. The EIR is inadequate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Hansen.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Tom Hansen. I'm the business manager of IBW Local 302 and also the president of the Contra Costa Building Trades Council. I come here in support of this item tonight and the moving forward of the Pittsburgh Technology Center. The reason we're in favor of this is, once again, it shows how forward-thinking the city of Pittsburgh is and has been. I mean, you're the first place that had utility-scale solar in the county was Pittsburgh. Now then you went to battery storage, Pittsburgh, and now Pittsburgh's going to have the first data centers. Pittsburgh's on the cutting edge, quietly, professionally moving forward, moving the county forward, moving the green empowerment zone forward. So you're doing a lot of great things here and not getting a lot of credit for it, but you are on the cutting edge for the county, and we want to thank you for that because you always will partner with the trades. So we look forward to working on this project with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony Viscuso.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Anthony Viscuso, and I'm a business agent for Local 16 Heat and Frost Insulators. But I'm also a Pittsburgh resident. I live right at the top of Encinal Place, better known as Thermometer Hill. And I have a direct view of everything downhill all the way out to the water. I can see this building clear as day from my house, and it's a beautiful landmark as to what the city has to offer. I can see the power plants, I can see the chemical plant. And when this project gets built too, I'll be able to look at that and say, you know what, a lot of good people worked on that project, and that was one of the projects that started to transform Pittsburgh into, as was mentioned earlier, into the 21st century. I think this is a good project for us to have. I'm a little at lost with what happened with POSCO. You know, we lost over 1,000 good jobs when that manufacturing place went out of business. And anything we can do, I know that we can't do anything with that land because that's all private, but you guys have an opportunity to do something with this land right now, and I think this is a great opportunity. And so I strongly urge you to move forward with approving this part of the process so we can get on to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
John DeLacio.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Thank you for having me. My name is John DeLacio. I'm with Avio, the developer and the applicant. And I'm joined by Joe Hubbard, Ryan, Scott, and several other members of our team here tonight. So I'd just like to thank you and tell you a little bit about Avio and reiterate what we've done with this project. So Avio is an infrastructure developer. We focus on building new, sustainable infrastructure throughout the country. And when we found this site and we worked with you over the last 2 years, this is the right infrastructure at the right place, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But before I do, I'd like to thank staff, Garrett, Jordan, John, Allison. I know they've put over 6 years into this project. We've been in around 2, And it's been a really wonderful thing working with staff and learning what the city's vision is for this park, what the city's vision is of how we can marry those visions, those development goals with what we do in economic development. And really the access to the power lines that's right next to the park, the access to recycled water makes this a very sustainable project and the right infrastructure in the right place. And so I'm really proud to have been able to work with you guys, work with staff to marry those objectives. And as a brief history, when we did get involved, we made commitments to you. We made commitments to the neighbors of Golf Club Road. We made commitments to the union, use union labor. And here we are 2 years later, having honored and met all of those commitments. We have a 400-foot setback from Golf Club Road. We're committed to using project labor, not just for the first phase, but all 3 phases, IBEW, NorCal Carpenters, the building trades, throughout all phases of this project. And so we've made those commitments, but even the infrastructure itself will be a big boon to the city, you know, not only from a sustainability standpoint, 100% recycled water for process, 100% green energy. We talk about location. We have direct access to 7 high voltage power lines, so there's going to be no new power lines running through the city. We'll be running infrastructure that's already immediately adjacent and available to the project. During construction, we're going to be having roughly 100 to 150 union labor jobs for over a year and a half for each phase of the project. They'll be using your hotels, the restaurant, boosting the community. And even once it's operational, this project will see new fiber built, new technology. As some of the other speakers noted, when you build these data centers in a community, it attracts a lot of other ancillary businesses. And we believe, and again, working with staff about what Pittsburgh can be, that this project can help facilitate Pittsburgh being a leader of the 21st century economy. So with that, I thank you. Truly believe this is the right infrastructure at the right place in the city and at the right time. I hope you approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wolfgang Kroski.
Good evening, Council. It's I think this is one of the few projects where I can say I represent, or shouldn't say represent, wear lots of different hats. So I go to church there, go there every Sunday. I represent the business community of Pittsburgh. I sell houses in the area, so touched a lot of spots here. The concerns I have is that we talk about local control. We don't like when the state is telling us what we can do with our land. But yet here, we're taking away local control by not allowing Planning Commission and people to have more access to the process. The project, I'm not going to speak about the project because, you know, you could swing it both ways, but the process was done according to the law. But the law is not for the common man. It's very confusing. I doubt anybody read the 60 plus pages, understands what it says, and that's why they're not here tonight. We all know it's going to happen tomorrow when this news hits. Everybody's going to be on Facebook and they're going to be bitching about, well, why did they blah, 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 because they don't understand the process. And I think that by allowing phase 1 to be built and 2 and 3 by zoning administrator, city staff, not to fault them or their skill set, that's not the message. It just takes away the ability for residents to have access to the process. And again, phase 1, we don't know how it's going to go, but we already are pre-approving phase 2 and phase 3 to be done at the city staff level. And I fully understand the need for speed, the velocity, and being shovel ready. So don't want to take away from that either. And I know that by keeping it with the zoning administrator, you know, if we happen to get some wing nuts on the planning commission, we don't want that to delay the process and all of a sudden we lose it. So it is a balancing act by just looking at the process and being able to make sure that the local residents have more access to it. The second point is we should already start planning where these other businesses are going to go, these offices, these things that if we build this, they're going to come. Where are they going to come? Where are we going to put them? And let's start that process now because that velocity is only going to get more intense. So as this ground gets broken, those businesses are going to want to come. Do we have shovel ready for where they're going to go and where we want them to be? Because if we don't, it's kind of like, you know, you get the car filled up with fuel and you get it going, but you really don't have your map and we're going, right? And then the third one is, since everybody has their hand out asking and trying to bleed this project to death before it even gets started, I really think this would be a great location for a small incubator. We're right here in the tech center. We don't have one. A lot of ways that people have been trying to make that happen, but I think this would be a great spot to find some less desirable space that really can't be filled by the prime tenant, and make that an incubator space that can help bring more tech to us, and then hopefully those businesses could then find locations in Pittsburgh and actually create long-term jobs, not just the interim construction jobs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pierre McCoy.
I didn't come too ready, but I just wanted to let you know I am on golf club court. This will be in my backyard. I am for golf club courts, which means, and I'm for this project. Right now, currently, there is fire danger behind my house. There has been 2 fires in the last 3 years, as closely as I could see them. And this will mitigate the fire danger in my own backyard. I'd rather see the old golf club fixed up and used for something rather than homeless and people that have been staying back there and living on the old golf course. It burnt down, they tore it down, and every year there's fire danger. I've looked at the plan, I've came to a couple meetings that they've already done, and I'm established. I've worked in a data center. I know how a data center runs, and you're not gonna hear anything outside of it. So I'm excited for the project, which I think I'm the only one on golf club that's excited for it. And my neighbor is excited for it because it's developed behind us and we can see that there's gonna be fields and it develops more and more out of the way that will take away from all the wind tunnel dust and that already comes through there. So I'm excited for the project and I'm for it and I hope that you guys will be for it. And after hearing all the positives plus that's gonna happen with this, I would vote for it. Thank you, Councilors.
Thank you.
No more speakers, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank all the speakers once again for coming out and speaking on this item. Okay, we will now close the public hearing. I will bring the item back to council. Are there any questions or comments from the City Council? Vice Mayor Killings.
Yes, thank you, the mayor. If staff, if you don't mind, can you just share what the appeal process would look like? I know there's been a lot of consideration around adopting the specific plan, it not coming back before council, kind of the transparency of process. And if you could just share just a little bit about just the appeal process. Is that just solely the applicant? If it's denied, is appealing? Is this community members? Or there can be another interjection for a cause for appeal? If you could just share just a little bit.
Working? There we go. Thank you for that question, Mr. Vice Mayor. I definitely will address that, and if okay with you all, I'd like to expand a little bit more on some of the transparency questions and what the process would look like. The short answer is anybody can appeal. If the zoning administrator makes a determination, any member of the public, the applicant, or the city manager may appeal that decision, and that appeal would go to the Planning Commission. That decision would also be appealable by any member of the public, any member of staff, the city manager, or the applicant, and then it would potentially go to the City Council. As far as transparency and what we're looking at, we've utilized the specific plan as basically the zoning district. That's what it means. And so this is no different than establishing standards in any other zoning district. You establish setbacks, you establish a process and development guidelines, or in this case, development standards that are necessary and what we base our potential review on. So when we've established this very comprehensive list that guides design review, let's set aside the uses for now, guides design review, what we're doing is we're effectually establishing those guidelines that any application would be reviewed upon. And so if they meet those guidelines, we are saying that we've adopted standards that we want to see out in this area. And with any application, if you've established those guidelines and somebody meets those guidelines, they're meeting the requirements of that zoning district. there seems to be a little bit of a concern that all these different uses, warehousing and storage, some of these other things, could potentially just go in with zoning administrator approval. And that's not correct. Any use that would exacerbate or increase some of the impacts that were looked at would require a completely new environmental report. So let's just use the warehouse example, for instance. That would cause an immense amount of traffic. That would require a complete redesign of some of the area. It would require further mitigation measures. That's not something that the zoning administrator would be able to just approve. And frankly, the zoning administrator would not take that application themselves. They would take that application to the Planning Commission, which they have the authority to do at their own discretion. And there would be an immense amount of environmental work that would need to go into that. Other uses would be reviewed to see if they increase the impacts that were analyzed. The data center, as the city manager pointed out, has a very low impact. In looking at all of the different issues that are required under CEQA, there were no overriding considerations. There were no impacts that could not be mitigated below a significant level. They all were able to. Noise, air quality, everything. So anything that would come in that would not meet those criteria would require environmental review. It would need to go before the Planning Commission and potentially even the City Council, depending on the type of entitlements that were required. So thank you for letting me expand on that answer a little bit.
Oh, thank you.
Councilmember Skels Preston.
And I have a question for you, Jordan. So with it coming back to council just so that it could be transparency, how is that slowing things down? Because there could be a special meeting, right, just for if something needs to be approved right away. So I'm just thinking of just transparency and for the public to make sure that the council gets a chance to put their eyes on it and have a discussion about it.
Trying to make sure I'm answering your question correctly, council member. Maybe starting with the first part. The goal here is to allow a staff level review, which requires notification to the public and the scheduling of that hearing, which can be done much faster than taking things to the Planning Commission or the City Council. Normally something like this would actually be in the council or the Planning Commission's purview. And so that is something that we would be bypassing if we went to the City Council. If we kept the status quo, if you will, we would need to go to the Planning Commission than the City Council. That requires significantly more agendizing and lead times in order to make sure these items get before the necessary bodies. We have packed City Council agendas with a lot of development taking place. And so it would be increasing the difficulty to find times on certain calendars in order to get these before you all. Plus we have the 10-day agenda, additional review of staff reports and resolutions and other items that just add to the lead time necessary. But if I may, I go back to the idea that by establishing guidelines, you've said in advance, or the City Council by adopting these has said in advance what it wants to see. And we feel very comfortable that those 60 plus guidelines that we've established along with the over 30 mitigation measures allow us to identify what we want to see and then move forward when the opportunity strikes very quickly.
Thank you for explaining that. I had another question with regards to, so in terms of the generators, is there other options such as, in terms of the power goes out, can battery storage and solar panels be used for a data center? Maybe, I can't remember your name. Maybe you can explain that a little bit better.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Thank you for that question. My name is Scott Galati, And I represent people who go to the California Energy Commission when they want to think about building a data center. And that's why I'm doing work for Avio to do that. There's been about 14 or 15 data centers recently that have been big that went to the Energy Commission, and all of them had an evaluation of all the other technologies, everything from putting air into the ground and then having it come out compressed, a flywheel, batteries. So I'll give you an impression about batteries. We already use batteries in the data center to stop the generators from going on when there's small interruptions of power. So we already do that. So in order to make it last, most of our tenants, our clients, want 48 hours of capacity. They don't look at it like power. They look at it like an insurance policy. And so when we lease to somebody, they often require us by contract to go ahead and say, you have to have 48 hours. To build a 48 hours of battery energy storage facility for a large data center would cost probably another 150 acres of just batteries. Mm-hmm. And so it's not only uneconomic, we also need to charge those batteries. So the days that we're operating after we discharge them, we're taking twice as much power and putting them into the batteries. So they don't quite work today, and maybe they will work in the future. Just wanted to make sure you understood that when Avio filed an application with the Energy Commission, they already committed to a lot of things that you haven't yet seen. And one of them is they're using renewable diesel as the fuel, not regular diesel. That's very helpful with all the emissions in making diesel. The second thing is these generators operate about 10, 12 hours a year, and we only run them one at a time. That's just to test them, unless there's an emergency, and then we have to run them. So to keep them up and tuned and maintained, we're talking about sometimes 15 minutes a month at no load, one at a time. They sound less than a car with the enclosures we put them in. And lastly, Avio is one of the few applicants who is committed to use 100% renewable energy or go buy other renewable energy for someone else to use to make sure that they are not increasing their greenhouse gas emissions. So that's not something you haven't heard yet about the data center that they're contemplating, which we don't know if the Energy Commission will even grant such an exemption. That's why we're not here before you on that one. But they're a very, very responsible applicant, and they're doing things that are above and beyond what other data center developers do. So did I answer your question, or did I go too far?
You did, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions or comments from my colleagues? Councilmember Adams.
Thank you. Through the mayor, I had a question around the noise mitigation. I know that was one of the guidelines or in what's being proposed. Like, what's the noise level? I think there's some concern around it. I've heard different things. Is there a way to maybe give an example of what the level of noise might be, if at all, from the facility or the proposed project?
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so thank you for the question, and I'll answer, and if I don't answer it fully, maybe Stephanie or someone else can speak a bit more to the technicalities. But at a high level, the way we approach noise, now the outcome was, at least for the data center, that the noise would have a less than significant impact. And generally, and I'll summarize, but there's two main ways you can comply with that. One is you meet the city's max decibel threshold at all times, or it's how far above the ambient noise as it is today. And so what is part of this environmental CEQA document that was done for the potential data center is they measured the ambient noise on the site as it stands today, and it was, I believe, around 54 to 57 decibels. And generally, what people say is if a change in decibels of between roughly 2 to 4 decibels, if that's the delta, that's not really perceptible. And so when they did the noise technicians did the analysis of what's the data center's noise generation on the hottest day of the year where all the cooling equipment's running, generally that delta was between 2 and 3 decibels. And in all cases, it was under 60 decibels which is the significant threshold that you have to meet to be less than significant. So on both those criteria, it was deemed to be less than significant. In terms of the noise level itself, as someone who's stood on that site a lot, you can definitely hear the car traffic, but it's not terribly loud as it is today. And so I don't believe in what the analysis has determined is not going to be any material change in where it stands today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any additional questions or, excuse me, or comments from my colleagues? Okay. All right. So at this time, I'll ask, what is the pleasure of the council on this item? Vice Mayor Killings.
Through the mayor, first, I know once again it's already been shared that this is really a large project that the city has not seen in its history. And so definitely want to give the space as we've had the public comment here tonight, and also as we're having questions amongst council members. Just want to recognize all of the comments that have been shared and really all the work that has gone into this project. For me, this has been an extensive process, being part of council when the decision was made regarding the former golf course, seeing the vision as it relates to economic development opportunity and increasing recreation opportunities for community members to utilize the space that is out there. And now really seeing that start to take life, the interest that is there with the VIO now taking the helm, and then also some of these pieces coming together. So when I was looking at the project overall, and I want to thank the team, both staff and the members from VIO for the site visit, to be able to go out there and look at the site and understand really what we're looking at as far as development out there. And I think a lot of the points have been hit here tonight in terms of not only mitigation when it comes to the site. So as we look at transportation, traffic was something that folks had a concern of. And so we see, at least with the first phase, and even as it's been mentioned here, even tonight, when it comes to future phases, that there are certain thresholds that have been identified, and none of them went above that significant level. And if there was something that was proposed to the city, then it would have to come back for further review. So I do find a level of comfortability in that. One thing that I do want to share in terms of just the overall process as we're now looking at adopting a specific plan, one thing that we have continuously tried to share as a council as we're going through goals and as we're looking at really the future of our city is deciding what we want to be and what we want to do, and then get out the way. So one thing that we constantly hear in our community is, what are we going to do about the jobs, housing imbalance? What are we going to do to address that we're just a bedroom community? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change the trajectory of that. One thing that we understand as a council, or at least for myself as a council member, is that we don't have a wand to dictate the market. So we can't just decide here from a council what businesses are automatically going to establish and put roots in our community. But what we can do is create an environment that is inviting for them to want to invest in our community, and to have an opportunity for billions of dollars to be invested into our community is something that I think has been noted as a great opportunity, not only for jobs, but also for our local economy, for infrastructure, and a number of the goals that we're trying to accomplish. So getting back in terms of looking at the specific plan, I really want to appreciate the detail that has gone into it. I think one thing that we can see, and it was alluded to with some of the public comments as well, as far as the proper planning is about what we want to be and where we want to go as a city. I think what we've seen over the past decade or so is right now a certain specific plan is coming to life, being our Railroad Avenue specific plan. And so that took a lot of time to invest in planning, and we're starting to see that come to fruition ever since BART, ever since some of that development is now happening in that corridor. And I believe that this is now another opportunity to streamline the type of development we want to see, to create the opportunities we want for our community. So with that, I don't want to be too lengthy in my comments. I do support the specific plan, and I believe that there are opportunities if there are issues that come up, both for the public as well as us for council, to be able to say, hey, there's something that we need to reconsider, something that we need to look and address. And as the policy makers, we always have that opportunity to look at specific policies that we adopt, and to be able to rectify things that may not be working. So with that, I'll definitely allow my other colleagues to make comments, but I do want to just acknowledge all of those that came out to make public comments, and definitely for those who are residents here to express your thoughts about the development that's happening in our community, the impacts that it will have on our residents, because as it was shared, we can't take any of these decisions lightly. We know that there's always going to be trade-offs. We know that we always can't make 100% of everyone happy, but we have to look at really what's the best interest for the growth of the community, and also for some of the goals that we have to truly sustain where we're trying to go into the future. And I really do want to echo the sentiments, because I really believe there's a lot for us to be proud of here in the city of Pittsburgh. And this is going to be another project that we're going to be able to tout, not only regionally, but throughout the state, about the great things that are happening in Pittsburgh. And I'm looking forward to see the opportunities that will present itself as a result of a transformative project such as this. So with that, I'll yield my comments, but would put forward the motion to adopt the resolution. And I can do it by item if we need to, through the city attorney, if it needs to be done, and multiple motions, or if I just need to read everything that is listed here.
I would suggest taking the two items separately. It's not required, but it's recommended.
So I'd be happy to make the motion at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Scales-Preston.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Jordan, and your team for the presentation and all the work that has went into this. When I first ran for council in 2018, the golf course closed and talk of the technology park coming to life was at that time. And for myself, at that time, I was excited about the potential of, bringing in jobs. And that's what we talk about a lot, especially here in East Contra Costa County. My home is, about 1,700 feet away from the project. It's something I'll be able to see every single day. And so for myself, I think it's important that we do have council, making sure they have eyes on it as well, to make sure everything is going well, especially with the first project. But with that said, I think it's important to piggyback on jobs. It's important to have jobs in our community. We have several people throughout East Contra Costa County that are commuting each and every day to Silicon Valley. And we're talking about job hubs all the time here. And so we want good jobs, good paying jobs, green jobs as we continue to transition away. We know we have USS Pasco that is now gone, and Corteva is leaving us now, and we're entering a phase where we can have a job hub that can bring in permit uses for all different things and not just data centers. And I think that part is really exciting for us to be able to have in our community, as well as for our youth to have the potential to have jobs right here in our community. So therefore, I would be supporting this project, but I would like to also just share the caveat again of, our council making sure that we continue, as this project goes on, the first phase, that we're putting our eyes on it and making sure that there's transparency in the community that lives around the project is able to still share. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other of my colleagues have any comments? Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, through the mayor. Again, also want to thank the team for the great care that you've taken. I was not here in the beginning of the project, but having been a former planning commissioner and a regulator and a policy maker in my profession, I have worked with projects dealing with CEQA and EIR reports, and I think that it's a really great showing. What I do appreciate is that there is a public hearing process with the streamlined process. Having implemented projects that have gone through similar scenarios where there's a checklist of what you need to do, but the fact that we have the ability to invite the public in to do public hearings as we're going along and doing these projects shows the care and intention of the city staff and the council, because we want the city to feel like they're included. There have been lots of things that have been mentioned that have been positive about the project. And then there's some concerns along the way that we want to make sure that we're addressing so that the residents are happy, and that also our city can grow to be that vibrant city that it needs to be. And so I support the project for various reasons. Having formerly sat on the chamber board within our city, people who come here and start businesses, they sometimes have said, we don't want to come to Pittsburgh because we can't move the data to be responsive and really scale a business out in that area. So this gives us that opportunity to do that. This is part of our infrastructure that we need to grow for our city. And having said that, we really want to continue to just make this a destination city, not only just for residents, but also for businesses, and most of all for jobs. We have a gap in jobs here within the city, so this is a way to fill that gap. And we're going to continue to grow, and we will grow and attract more businesses, and that's really what we want, and have that reliability. And I love the climate smart part of it because that's also important for us. And so I support the project for a number of reasons, but I also know and have experienced the how public hearings can really help you refine and get better. And so with that being built into this process, I think you've done a really great job of taking care of that. And so I do support the project for those reasons.
Excellent. Okay. Any additional comments from my colleagues on this item prior to taking a motion? Okay. So prior to taking a motion, I'd like to make some comments as well. When I decided to run for council in 2016, I wanted to make sure that our youth had opportunities to live and work in our community, like I have had the opportunity and privilege to do so. This represents an opportunity of a generation. This is about economic development. It's about jobs. It's about correcting the jobs housing imbalance. When we decided 6 years ago to close the golf course, a big part of what we wanted to see, the vision, was part of the space be economic development, job creators. On the other half, be recreation. And a big part of that was that the recreational open space would be paid for and funded by the economic development projects that would be happening on the other part of the property. And this represents that piece, right? And this is how we're going to pay for and be able to move forward with the recreation open space that our community needs. I think there are definitely some very valid concerns in terms of, what is this going to look like? Is there going to be noise, right? What impacts are they going to have to surrounding communities? I think the process that staff has gone through in terms of evaluating, all of these concerns, the public meetings that have happened, I think there's also opportunities in the future, right, when the specific EIR comes back to council. Also, the zoning administrator, as was mentioned, those decisions can be appealed. Any planning commissioner can pull a zoning administrator item at any time as well. So I think that there are plenty of opportunities along the way to make sure that this is, whatever project goes here will be the best project for the community. I think the specific plan calls out a number of requirements, as has been mentioned, that will help to make sure that this is the best project for the community. So with that, I will be supporting this project, and I look forward to seeing this project move forward. I will open the floor. Councilmember Lopez.
Just briefly, I also want to commend city staff for working really hard in this project. It just shows overall. At the beginning of the year, I did meet with developer, and one of my initial questions to them was how transparent they were going to be with the community. A project like this is new, so I understand, some of the pushback that members of the community might have. But one of the things that really stuck out to me while meeting with the developer is that they excitedly wanted to mimic Silicon Valley here in Pittsburgh. And to me, that's really exciting, especially for our youth. We have LMC here just, a few blocks away from the site. And so in my, wild imagination, I envision Pittsburgh moving towards a Silicon Valley type of city where not only we're going to create jobs, but we're going to create more educational opportunities for our youth to also develop. And, I always hear from members of the public that we need better grocery stores, that Pittsburgh should not be just a place where housing gets developed, and they want to see other types of businesses. And so that's one of the main reasons why I support this project, because for the first time, it's not additional housing. It's an actual data center that might attract other types of businesses, including big retailers such as better grocery stores. So for those reasons, I support this project. But I do believe that our community deserves transparency. And, before moving into phase 2 or 3, I would really like to see a lot more involvement within our community to keep them updated and to really listen to their concerns. One of the things that I told developer in the beginning was, in order for them to have a successful project within the city, they really need to listen to our community members and actually keep them part of the development as well, because going hand in hand with staff, the community council, and community members is what makes a project like this very successful, not in the short term, but we want to see it to be successful in the long run.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so at this point, I will entertain a motion from Vice Mayor Killings.
Yes, through the mayor, I'll make 2 motions. So the first motion is the adoption of a resolution certifying the final program environmental impact report, adopting CEQA findings of facts and a mitigation monitoring and reporting program, and approving a vesting tentative map for the first motion.
Thank you. And I see a second. Councilmember Adams?
Thank you. Through the mayor, I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes unanimously. Vice Mayor Killings?
For the second motion, I'll move the introduction and waive first reading of an ordinance assigning zoning of planned development district to properties located within the Pittsburgh Technology Park Specific Plan area and adopting the Pittsburgh Technology Park Specific Plan AP-24-0028.
Thank you. Councilmember Lopez?
I second the motion.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Please cast your votes. The motion passes unanimously. Okay, we will move on to the combined consent calendar. Prior to doing so, do any members of the council have a conflict of interest on any items of the consent